Hi, today I'm going to talk about dysgraphia, what it is, how it's affected me, and the things that have helped. Growing up, I had a lot of difficulty with writing. People didn't really realise this, or nobody brought it up, but it caused me significant problems. I never received a diagnosis of this. I still don't have a diagnosis. I don't even know how to get one. But I do know I'm surrounded by adaptations. So dysgraphia, as far as I understand it, is to do with writing. It's holding on to a pencil and drawing and writing. So for me, from a very young age, I really struggle with that. I struggle with that because to hold on to something like a pencil is very difficult for me. You know, you've got to hold on to it very, very finely in the hand, and that's very fine motor skills, those muscles. And so often I would exert too much pressure, and that would cause my hand to really, really hurt. Okay, and you know, growing up, I'm 30 now, you'd get dismissed, you know, just keep on going, keep on trying, rote learning, write, you're not very neat, write more, which is the worst thing, for me anyway. In exams, the hand would ache so much, it would take so long to do exams, I'd be in pain the entire time, it would affect my concentration massively. It's a shame. So I've tried many things as I've gone through this journey. From a young age, I avoided biros. Biros is slippy and all over the page, which required more force to write neatly and accurately. So I would use pencils. Because you can finely control the point at the end of the pencil, the traction on the paper, the feel. Teachers did not like that. They would get me to rewrite things with pen all the time, which meant even more pain. And the problem is, it takes me a lot longer to write because the more I write, the less neat, the more scribbly, the more letters I miss out of words. Any word I write that ends in ing, if I've written for like a few lines, eventually just comes a squiggly line at the end. Because it's just my hands. It takes a lot of effort to keep them doing the fine movements, and I can do that if I write slowly, and I cannot do it if I'm writing fast. And the problem is as well, writing slowly, I'm going to use a lot more force to keep that fine control, which is going to cause my hand to ache. So I tried a lot of different pencils. I've got 6Hs, 5Hs, 4Hs. What's the one I eventually settled for? This is a little device that if your pencil gets too short, again, if a pencil's too short, I can't grip onto it too well anymore. Like that. Any pencil that, you know, is that size. So let's see an unsharpened pencil. Not much difference, but it gets to that size, can't use it anymore, which is very wasteful of pencils. It's a shame. So I think this is a 2H, but it's a 3H. So 3H is the pencil I eventually decided on because it's got the right amount of traction for me to write the neatest. And across time, I'll retry them all. I'll retry all sorts of different pencils to see what the difference is, because some are scratchier, some are smoother. 3H is what works for me. But again, it doesn't have to get very short for it to become unusable. And the reason why is because if I'm holding it there or something, I've got to have enough for it to go across here and the counterweight, and it sounds like I'm making this up. But yeah, so I found out in adulthood, in fact, only just a year ago, that you can get little things like this. There's nicer looking ones that you add on. And you just turn it around and tighten it. And then that extends the weight. And in fact, some of these can be heavier and you could add weights to them. Some people, they may help the little grips on the end, because then that's something to wrap the fingers around, provide a bit of padding, maybe widen the pencil. Another thing I tried was these kind of pencils. You see there's these holes on them which you can align your fingers so that you're holding it in the right way. I think what I discovered when I tried this kind of pencil is the way I actually hold a pencil is different than the way you're meant to. So I've gone around and went to tons of friends, how'd you hold a pencil? And then I've got them to hold one of these. And I found out that a lot of people I'm surrounded by also don't use pencils in the way you're meant to, whatever that means. But for some people, perhaps this will help. The problem is, as it gets sharpened, the holes are going to move. So where your fingers are held is going to be different. So that's going to make things more complicated. These are also triangular. So maybe a different shape pencil would be helpful. As for pens, biros, too slippy for me. So I use pens that have a bit more traction. So this is a Uniball I Micro. And I can't remember how fine it is. Is it 0 point something? I think there's 0.1, there's 0.2, there's 0.25, there's all sorts of different ones. I just know I buy the same one every time. And it comes in colours, and it's got a very fine tip, so it's very traction-y on paper, which again, it gives me that feedback I need to write as neat as possible. When it comes to writing every day, I don't use lined paper. I haven't used lined paper in years. As an adult, why would I use lined paper anymore? Writing in the lines, that takes so much more effort and pressure and pain for me. So I actually use a dotted notepad. This is what works for me. It's got lots of little dots. So it doesn't really matter if I write over the line because there are no lines. Also, like if I wanted to write neatly, I can use each individual squares for each letter to keep it neat. So that in itself is a strategy that I use. The good thing I like about pencil as well is I can easily just use an eraser because, again, squiggly lines, writing for long periods of time, I'm not going to write so neat. Some other things I've tried is I recently tried the Apple Pencil. Now, this is the Apple Pencil 2, and I've got an iPad. For some people, writing on a tablet, that may be amazing for them. Suddenly they've got that control of erasing, different colours, everything's in one. So it's a consistent pencil. For me, this is very slippery, and I've tried lots of pencils across time, lots of different brands, and they've always been too slippy. With the Apple Pencil, you can take the tip off, and you can add a more traction-y tip. You can also get an overlay to go on the tablet that has a lot more traction, and that can be significantly more traction, to the point where if you rub your fingers across it, it feels like it's very grainy and covered in bumps. That could help somebody write on a tablet, but give them the traction they potentially need. So the point here is, all my life, from a very young age, I've struggled with writing. It's hurt. It's been physically painful. It has slowed down my thinking because my thoughts are up at this pace, super fast, but my ability to write and get them down on paper super slow. This meant it's difficult to engage in any kind of work, assignments, homeworks, any kind of tasks. It means I've never really developed very good artistic skills because the amount of physical and mental effort for me to draw has been so great. And often the message you get from everyone else around is, why are you writing so slowly? Why is your handwriting so neat, untidy? Practice, do it more. You often get given the same piece of homework in school to do a second, a third time because it's not neat enough, it's not tidy enough, things are not on the line, they're not in the correct boxes, or it's not readable. I nowadays, where I can, I generally avoid writing, which is a shame because it's actually very useful. I carry myself a little portfolio like this, and it's A5. Not A4, A5, because each page is small. It encourages me to use it because if I make a mistake, it's a small piece of paper that I'm chucking away. I'm not like have to scrap a massive piece of paper. I don't have to carry a massive piece of paper around me every time. The portfolio I like because I've got my rubber and sharpener all in the same place. It's just, and again, just the dotted paper. I've tried all sorts of different types of paper. This method I like. I think it's not just the fact that it's a small piece of paper, so if I, make a mistake, I'm not having to chuck away a massive piece of paper, which looks weird to onlookers as well as bothers me. Also, it means that if I'm, say, filling out this piece of paper with information, I finish the paper quicker, I fill it up quicker, and thus, in a way, it's mentally rewarding because I've completed that piece of paper quicker. So actually, the amount of effort required from me to fill out that page is less than if it was a massive A4 page. Sounds silly, perhaps, but when you've had a lot of negative reinforcement around writing, anything helps. Nowadays, I use a computer or I use a phone. And even then, I don't know whether it's the dysgraphia, but my fingers, kind of don't always go at the pace of my mind. They often do their own thing. I rely on autocorrect. It's amazing autocorrect. It corrects everything without me even realizing. But the second I pick up someone else's computer, I realize just how much I suck at spelling. I have no idea if that's to do with the dysgraphia, but for me, the dysgraphia is to do with the fine motor skills of drawing and writing. It causes me pain in my hands to write. I cannot write neatly. I struggle to keep in the confines of lines, or on a page, I think I also struggle to know the boundaries or directions of something. Like if I was to draw a square, the proportions of it perhaps are more difficult for me. Again, the lined paper, I don't know if you can see it, really, really helps with all of those kind of things. It allows me to do basic diagrams and keep that proportionalism. Perhaps that's not dysgraphia, perhaps that's just not practicing art or drawing for me engaged because of the pain associated with it. Sadly, it was not recognised, different things were not tried, and I didn't get that help.